Now, tonight's adventure into the unknown.
Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to SARGE Approved. I'm Sarge.
And I'm Frenzy.
What's up, Frenzy?
What is up? I'm super good. How are you?
Great. We're back at it again.
Yes, we are.
And who are we back at it with tonight?
We have a guest.
Who is it?
And I am an asshole because I didn't ask the correct pronunciation of your last name. I'm gonna do it. I'm totally gonna butcher it, but you can correct me. Ron Placone.
You nailed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I never.
Yeah,
did
that's it. It's no gimmicks, no frills. It's just totally phonetic. Placone.
I love it.
Yeah.
No little extra inflections. Placone.
No.
Placone.
I mean, technically, the correct Italian pronunciation would be Placone, but I don't live in Italy. I live in the United States, so it's Placone.
I like it. Perfect. Yay.
Yeah.
How are you doing tonight?
I am doing wonderful. I'm happy to be on the line with you guys. It's kind of interesting, I guess maybe karma, but I do a podcast on music and politics called 5 Chords and the Truth, and we recorded an episode today about the Husker Du drummer that passed away. So we were talking about Minneapolis music a lot throughout the episode.
Oh,
so,
cool.
So I was talking about Minneapolis for about an hour today.
Nice.
Already. And then I was like, oh, yeah, and I'm doing a podcast out of Minneapolis later tonight. So yeah, good to be on the line with you guys. And, I got a lot of love for the Twin Cities. Always love going out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm doing wonderful.
Awesome. Well, we're super glad to have you and excited to chat with you. And I love that you're talking about Minneapolis music. There's so many good ones.
All right. We got to pause a second so that we can hear a word from our wonderful sponsors. Sarge here.
Frenzy here.
They're here to tell you about our sponsor, Northland Vapor Company. They're serving the global vaping community. What they do is they provide quality and non-costly e-liquid. For all you vape heads out there, this is important. They source top quality raw materials and do not use any artificial coloring, preservatives, or sweeteners in their products.
That's awesome. They also have 13 amazing flavors that come in 2 different sizes. 120 mils, which is priced at $14.99, and the 30 mil bottle option, which is priced at $6.99. That's like half the cost of normal other places.
Than most places.
Yep. And they have some awesome flavors. The most popular right now is called Nuts and Cream. You're going to love these nuts.
Oh, I do love these nuts.
And they also have another flavor that is called Tangerine Dream, and it is oh so dreamy.
Northland Vapor also has a premium line called Apex. And these Apex Liquid comes in 30 milliliter bottles for $9.99 generally and has 7 flavors for your blowing cloud pleasure. Northland Vapor also offers free domestic shipping on orders of $50 or more. And free shipping on international orders of $100 or more. Everybody loves free shipping.
Yeah, that's
Hell
awesome.
Yeah.
You can check out their website, northlandvapor.com, and use the code SARGE20 for 20% off e-liquid and swag. They have some pretty sweet swag.
They got some badass swag.
Awesome hats, t-shirts, stickers, all
Hell
the
yeah.
things. And while you're there, make sure that you sign up for their Northlander Rewards program. You can earn points towards future orders, get discounts, savings, get promotional stuff, find out when new flavors are coming out. Just do that. And make sure Northland Vapor Company is on your radar. Be the cloud.
Do it.
Do it now.
Later, fuckers.
Bye.
Sarge here.
Frenzy here.
To talk to you about Alpine Hemp and their awesome hemp oil products. Okay, Alpine Hemp makes full-spectrum, whole-plant hemp oil, also known as CBD oil, which is extracted from the hemp plant, and it's not psychoactive. That means it can't get you high, and you're not going to fail a drug test.
Exactly. Hemp oil is made up of cannabinoids, and these are natural compounds that are found in whole-plant hemp extract. They can be used to help with pain, inflammation, anxiety, cigarette addiction, acne, mood swings, sleep issues, and so many more things. It's got so many beneficial properties.
Alpine Hemp is committed to creating the highest quality and most effective hemp oil products on the market. They source high-quality, organic ethanol extracted hemp oil. This allows them to have an all-natural product from start to finish.
Boom. And you're probably wondering, is it legal? Yes, absolutely. It's completely legal because it's extracted from hemp grown organically in the US of A. Alpine Hemp offers their quality products in 3 different forms. They have capsules, tinctures, put a little dip in your coffee, and vape e-liquid.
Yes, and you can do all this research on your own, or you can go to alpinehemp.com and get more info.
Yeah, and while you're there, use the code SARGE20 for 20% off of your order.
Beautiful! Boom!
Bye!
Later!
Hey everyone, it's Kevin from Comics Watching Comics. Hey Kevin, you sound a little bit hoarse. Well, that's true. I was just in Vegas. Or I've been screaming from the mountaintops that Comics Watching Comics is now on Amazon Video. That's right. Season 1, Comics Watching Comics, now on Amazon Video, guys. And we also have Comics Watching Comics t-shirts for sale. That's right. From small to extra large, and for $20, including shipping, you can have your own Comics Watching Comics t-shirt. Contact me at my website, kevingoatee.com or comicswatchingcomics.com to see what they look like, and then you can get yourself a t-shirt. That's comicswatchingcomics.com and on Amazon Video now. Okay, I'll get some rest and drink some tea and honey. I got it. Hey everyone, it's Kevin from the SportsBook Box Office Podcast. What's going on? In the next month or so, Jeff and I are going to be having on the show Gino Bisconti, Season 5 panelist for Comics Watching Comics, as also can be seen on the show In Hot Water and on HBO's Crashing. We're going to have Brandon Scott back on the phone as well to do NFL talk. Brandon is the handicapper extraordinaire, the guy who the film Two for the Money with Matthew McConaughey and Al Pacino was based on. So, big heavy-handed gambling talk because, let's face facts, kids, 'tis the season with NFL right here. But don't worry, we're still going to talk about baseball playoffs and how Kevin's Yankees are looking pretty good for the playoffs, while Debbie Paul's Mets are just used to being the Mets. Sportsbook Box Office Podcast, iTunes, Google Play. Just want to say thanks so much for listening, and be sure to spread the word to your friends if you like the podcast. Again, thanks for listening. And now back to Sarge and Frenzy.
We met you here in the Twin Cities. We were talking before the show, probably this spring.
Yeah, in March.
At Sisyphus.
Yeah, I did a set over at Sisyphus, which is what a cool space. I really liked it.
It really is.
You know, it's funny, as a comic, whenever you hear the words brewing company attached to a venue, you're not quite sure what to expect.
Right.
You think, I might be walking into a sports bar that should not be doing comedy. But Sisyphus is set up perfectly. I mean, they made that room, they designed that room for comedy, it seems like.
Yeah, it does.
I had a blast there. I've never... I know I sound like I'm probably pandering already at this point, but I really do just love Minneapolis, and anybody that knows me knows that about me, so I'm being totally sincere. But I seldom, if ever, and I can't think of one, have had a bad show in Minneapolis. I mean, it's my favorite region to perform in, the Northern Plains. Some of my favorite towns to perform in are, in that radius, Minneapolis, Madison, Eau Claire. Those are some of my favorite places to do comedy. I can't, like just off the top of my head, I cannot think of a bad show I've ever had in that area. And I don't mean like, oh, I'm great. I mean like
I'm killing
they're
it.
just well
Every
produced.
time I go to the Midwest.
stages are good. And the audiences are great. You guys are, like Minneapolis crowds are smart but not pretentious. They are like the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. Like they're not afraid to give you a big laugh and show you that they care. But they're also smart and hip, and they really get it. And you can kind of take them anywhere you want. They're willing to go somewhere with you,
right?
Whatever your story is. So anyway,
well, that's cool. So the has the comedy scene, is that what kind of introduced you to Minneapolis in the first place, or had you been a visitor before, or that's just kind of where you got to know us?
The first time I ever went to Minneapolis, I was actually a kid, and I was way too young to appreciate like the culture of the city. I mean, I was just like maybe 8 or 9 years old, and I had to go for a family thing. And I didn't really do it. I went to a Twins game. That was about it because, I was a kid. And then, of course, I went to the Mall of America, which, I was disinterested in other than the amusement park. That was the part that interests me. Everything else, I didn't care. But that was cool. I was like, oh, I'm going on all these rides, and I'm inside. This is nuts. And as like an 8-year-old, the most exciting part for me about all that, being a ginger, is that I got to spend a day in an amusement park and did not have to put on sunscreen at any point. I would forget sometimes. I'd be like, oh, Mom, you make me put on sunscreen. She'd be like, no, you're inside, dummy. You don't have to put on sunscreen. And I'm like, yeah.
I love it.
I'm going to put it on anyways.
That's so funny. So I'm picturing you were there probably when it was Camp Snoopy.
Yeah.
It had like
it
the Knott's
Snoopy
roller
themed.
coaster.
Yeah.
And now it's Nickelodeon Universe.
No,
so
it is always going to be Camp Snoopy to me.
Well, me too.
In my heart, it is always.
I watched them build that shit. I lived like 3 blocks away. But yeah, now it's Nickelodeon Universe, so they have like Ninja
saw
Turtle
that. Last time I was in town, I did a spot at, or it might have been 2 times ago. I think it wasn't the last time I was in town, but 2 times ago when I was in town. For some reason, I'm always there in like the spring, when it is just still slightly too cold for me. But I'm usually there in the spring, and I remember I did a set at House of Comedy, and so I walked around the mall for a little bit, and I did see that it was all Nickelodeon themed.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that bringing it back to Sisyphus. I think. I've been there maybe 2 times, once or twice.
Yeah, but that was the first time, I think.
When we met
Ron, yeah.
Yeah, and I was very surprised by the setup that they had there, because I was thinking the same thing when you were talking about when it says brewery attached to the name of the restaurant. I'm like, how good can this be? Anytime you think of a comedy show in a bar. But got there, the place is really nice, and that comedy area is completely separate. It's not, you're not sitting there trying to tell jokes over all the people around the bar, the
right. The people,
they're there for the show.
Exactly, the people that are sitting there are there because they want to watch.
Off.
Yeah,
totally separate room.
Yeah,
we ended up going there because we had Corey Adam.
Yeah, he's the
Matt
MC.
Corey Adam, and I was like, "Hey, I want to go watch some comedy. Where is the best spot to go?" I was asking him like random questions, and he's like, "Yeah, come to Sisyphus, whatever." So we did, and it was super fun.
He doesn't talk like that.
Yes, that's exactly how he talks.
Like,
it's actually like way louder.
That's one of the reasons I really wanted to do a set there, and I was not worried about the brewery part necessarily when it came to Sisyphus, because I knew it was Corey's thing.
Yeah.
And, I've known Corey long enough that, he knows his stuff. He knows what he's doing. And he's a fantastic comic. So I was like, well, if this is Corey's thing, I have a feeling it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And other people have told me it's really cool. So, I wasn't... Generally, when you see the brewing company thing, you get a little nervous. In this case, I was like, well, usually that makes me nervous, but I have a feeling, with the reviews I've heard, this is going to be good. And, sure enough, it was great. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, that's one other cool thing about Minneapolis that I'll talk about, and then I'll stop, because I love talking about Minneapolis, too. There's so many different breweries, like craft breweries, and just little beer brew haha places popping up, and a lot of them are done really well. They have games. It's just like a fun. It's like the new. It's been new for a long time, but I think the ones that are successful have done it themselves like really well. Like they'll have bonfire pits outside or the comedy stage next door.
Do you secretly work for like the Minnesota Travel Association?
Yes, I do.
Or whatever it is, Tourism Association.
Yes.
That Corey Adam, I'm sure you could totally trust whatever spot he's emceeing at. I mean, honestly though, he would probably MC an open mic in like a back alley or something though too. So you never know. He'd be like, "Yeah, this is the greatest." I can't do a Corey Adam.
No, yeah, that was terrible. What was that? Was that?
that was more like
yeah, it doesn't sound like that.
What's
like,
the crazy one from Sesame Street?
Or maybe a Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah, no. I think it's the crazy Muppet guy.
But yeah, you were there at the open mic night on what is it, like a Tuesday or Wednesday night?
Thursday.
And you did, what did you do, like 5 minutes? 10 minutes? I can't remember. There's so many people
so, yeah. I think I just did like 5 to 7. I'm pretty sure.
But
I don't remember exactly.
I remember laughing my ass off at your set that you did, though. It was
Thank you.
You were one of the best ones that went up there that night.
Yeah, it was great.
The night itself was just a great show all around. There were some really, really good comics that went up there, and that's the thing about this place. Another thing,
Oh, do you work for the?
I'll give Minneapolis a little
visitors?
backup. The comedy scene is legit here, and like you were saying before, with you being the crowds themselves are overall pretty open-minded, and they're not too uptight. They don't have like a stick up their ass about kind of jokes that they hear. Usually, the people want to hear comedy. People like comedy in this area,
right?
And so like you get good open mics too. Like we've been to so many good open mics where, it'll be a Monday night at Acme or at Sisyphus or something.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the best in the country.
It's like how are we able? I can't believe that I'm sitting here, getting this much entertainment for fucking free. It's badass.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I should be paying something here because I've been to paid comedy shows, and they haven't been as energizing as some of the open mics I've been to. Like, there's some.
It's just it's a different vibe.
It's a good scene in Minneapolis, man. I mean, there's a lot of stage time, and there's a lot of good stage time, and there's a lot of really good working comics that live there. Mm-hmm. So they kind of, set an example where if you want to know what doing comedy is all about. If you hang around the Minneapolis scene, you're going to learn, and you're going to get good. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really great comics that live there, and I'm sure there's tons that I have no idea who they are, even that, I'd probably see it in open mic and be like, God, these people are really freaking funny. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those types of comedy towns, and it has been for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it.
But you're coming to us from California, West Coast.
I live in Los Angeles. Yes, yeah. I've only been here for about a year and a half now.
Oh,
okay.
But it has. My career is considerably different now. Or whatever you want to call it. My creative output is considerably different now than what it was prior.
And prior, were you out east prior?
My car, for the most part. I was on the road for like 5 years.
Okay.
And I lived in a few different places. I started comedy up in Seattle, actually, which at the time, that was like the really booming, place to go to do comedy. Because that was when Patton Oswalt was kind of on the rise, not in the area, but he was really popular up there. Like that was where he kind of first started blowing up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that was where just a lot of that type of comedy was really, really had its home and had its audience. And so Seattle as a comedy town was really blowing up. And you could be an open micer and get on stage 7 nights a week, and this was back in like 2007, when, comedy was not quite as big as it is now. It was starting to get hip and cool, but it wasn't quite as hip and happening and cool as it is right now. But even back then, you could get up pretty much every night in Seattle, Washington at the time. And I started up there, and then eventually kind of hit the road. I went to grad school back in Pittsburgh, where I'm from. And then I lived in Nashville for a little bit just because I was on the road, and Nashville was kind of right in the middle of the country. But that's a great town for comedy, too, actually. And Nashville's a really cool comedy spot. But and then I lived in my car for a little while because it just, it was getting to the point where it didn't make sense for me to have a rent. I mean, I was in a relationship, so I lived with my girlfriend. And then when that relationship ended, I was just, I didn't really see the point in having a place because I was never there. So
yeah. I know a few comics that have resided in their vehicle.
Yeah.
For certain periods of time.
Or no vehicle.
It was fun for a while, and then it got to the point where I sort of just got really tired of it, because for me it was like, it seems like it's really carefree and fun, and in some ways it is. Like, in some ways it's exciting, where it's like I could get a phone call and end up in a different city in a day or two, or even a matter of hours,
Right.
One text message, and I thought I just had an off night in Fort Wayne, Indiana with my cousins, and I was going to make them dinner and relax with them. Turns out, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm driving to Nashville, and I'm opening for Kathleen Madigan in 8 hours. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So there was a certain kind of excitement to that. It was kind of romantic. The other side of it was, it's like every day was sort of just a jigsaw puzzle as far as where am I sleeping tonight? Am I sleeping in my car tonight? What am I doing about food? Do I have access to a kitchen? Am I going to have access to a kitchen for a few days? Can I go grocery shopping? How are my ice packs in my cooler? Little things like that, it kind of made it so that, like, doing other just creative things was actually not super easy. Like, you didn't really have time to do much of anything, because you were just figuring out your day-to-day and finding a stage that would pay you as often as you can and in as far in advance as you can. And then, of course, clubs will cancel last minute on you. Things will get rearranged. The headliner will bring their own feature, so you're out of work, whatever. And then you're back to the drawing board. It's so it's kind of, it can be really fun, and it can be really kind of just exciting, like just like you're just a vagabond conquering the country.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is you're also just like, trying to just like exist is sort of things you take for granted. You really have to plan.
Yes.
And so that part kind of wore on me. And the idea of like maintaining a YouTube channel or even a podcast or anything like that, it's not impossible to do, but it's like a lot harder because you're just spending all these hours figuring out how to function.
Yeah. I think it's funny because, and you may not necessarily be this way, but when you were explaining it before, and then when you said it's hard because you can't plan, I was picturing you being a planner. Whether you like to or not, it's in your. It's like in your blood. You're not.
I'm so not.
I was way off.
I'm gonna have to make sure my girlfriend listens to this now, because if she heard you say that, she would just start laughing instantly.
So it's just when you're in dire straits.
Like I'm leaving for Colorado tomorrow. I'm doing 3 shows in Colorado this weekend. And I did not find out where I was staying until this morning. I still have not done all my logistics, and I'm just sort of like, my girlfriend's like, "What are you doing?" And and I'm like, "I don't know. I'm gonna grab a car, put my shit in the car, and show up to the show on time. That's what I'm gonna do. It's gonna, now I live in LA, and I work for an internet show called the Jimmy Dore Show, and so my life is significantly different now. And now, like, when I go on the road, it's almost like a kind of vacation in a way. Like, it's kind of like, because, like, now I have I guess in some ways it's a luxury, at least, you know, for right now, and hopefully it continues, where I can just sort of do the road the way I want to do it and focus on the types of things I want to focus on, play the types of shows I want to play. And I don't really have to worry about the bottom line as much because, you know, I work for a show in LA, and I do other, you know, kind of like creative output type things here in LA. So now, you know, when I go on the road, you know, if I want to say I'm going to go out to Colorado and do some indie rooms out there to see if I can sell some tickets, I can do that, and I can find out. And if I can, cool, I'm learning something about this market. If I don't, then it's like, okay, well, let's go back to the drawing board. Why didn't I, you know, are there not a lot of show listeners out there, whatever it may be, and I can do that. And, you know, doing the show is going to be fun no matter what. So,
yeah. Have you ever, being an LA comic, have you ever come across paths with comedian Darren Chase? No. He's a good friend, and he lives out there in Hollywood, LA area.
Yeah, there's a lot of us.
It's a pretty big.
It's a huge comedy scene out there.
He's from Minnesota too. That's kind of
right on.
Yeah.
So how long you been doing comedy now?
I've been doing comedy for about 10 years.
Okay. You got a vet here.
And I guess I've been doing comedy full time, you know, to some degree since 2012.
Okay.
He should go on Comics Watching Comics.
Oh yeah. Have you heard of Comics Watching Comics?
I'm not familiar, actually.
That's how you probably. How often do you go out in the East Coast, like New York and stuff?
You know, I used to make sure I always hit New York once a year, and I have not. I think this year might be the first year I miss it.
Okay.
And it's just because one of those things where, like, most of the stuff I would do in New York City, I can kind of do here now in LA, so I just haven't had, I mean, other than just going to do stand-up there, which is good. I should be doing more stand-up in New York. But, you know, as far as, like, who's seeing you and stuff, I just, and as far as, like, doing, like, I would do some Sirius XM spots and stuff like that when I'd be in New York. And I can do a lot of that stuff here in LA, so I just haven't really had as much of a need to go to New York at the moment. That could change in a minute.
Right.
But right now at the moment, like, it's just not, you know, there's nothing really pressing for me to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
There is such a huge comedy scene in California, though. I mean, there's countless places that you can get to within, you know, you live in San Diego or LA or something. Especially, what is LA probably got even more comedy spots, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even keep track of everything that's here, man. I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, you got the clubs, like, you know, the Store and the Improv and all those places, the Comedy and Magic Club. And then you even have, like, the kind of outer clubs, like Ventura Harbor and stuff like that. Then you have, like, Flappers and Ice House. But then you also have, like, so many just, like, bar rooms and, you know, like, theater rooms, and there's so many of those that go on, and it's like, you know, you'll message somebody about their show, the show's not there anymore, and they're starting another one, but they don't know when. You know, it's one of those things, like, shows close and sprout up quicker than I can even keep tabs on all of it. So,
right.
But it's exciting, you know, it keeps you on your toes.
That's cool. What's the public transportation situation like in California, LA right now? Like, is there one? They just have the little buses?
We have a subway.
Do they?
People don't really use it that much, but we do have one, and I don't really use public transportation here just because, you know, it really is a driving city. And I wish, you know, it's funny, you mentioned New York. Like, sometimes when I go out to New York, I get, like, a little envious for, like, a hot minute where and when I went out to New York last time, it was November, and I remember the first day I was there, I was like, I really miss the car-free lifestyle, and man, I think I could get used to the subways, and I love New York. Maybe I'll relocate here at some point. And then the second day, it was pouring down rain, and I was just like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Give me my traffic. Give me my palm trees. Give me my sunshine. I'll sit on the 101 and the 2. I don't give a shit. I want to go back to LA now.
There's just there's so many cars. Like I lived in California when I was 21. I moved there for a year, and I had a car. It was a shitty, 92 Buick Century that needed,
it's a badass car.
So much work. My brakes, I was basically, gonna die any day because of my brakes. So I literally wouldn't drive my car anywhere, and I was lucky enough to live in Santa Monica, 5th and Wilshire, basically. So I worked, on the...
Wow, you're right in the heart of it.
Yeah, so I worked on the 3rd Street Promenade, so I could just walk everywhere. But then there's this whole thing of, moving your car because they need to clean the streets. And it's
That's how they get
that
you.
3-hour window, and you can't remember where the fuck you parked because you live where you live, and there's cars everywhere. So you park, 6 blocks away, and I'm like, I can't remember if it's Tuesday or Wednesday. And then I'd be super stoned, and I'd be like, fuck it. And then I ended up getting $600 in parking tickets in a year. Well, they charged it was $68 a pop.
Damn.
And I was on my mom co-owned my car with me because she was helping me get credit, and she's got this letter in the mail, and she's like, Melissa, I have a $350 parking ticket bill for you out there. And I was like, whoopsies.
You're living off the grid.
Aw.
They don't know my address.
Oh, it's funny.
It's kind of amazing what some people are willing to put up with in exchange for, really nice weather. Or,
right.
California. You guys it's just pretty much, what is it, sunny and 70 or sunny and smoggy. 70 and smoggy for pretty much the whole year, but you have things you got to deal with
fires,
fucking fire,
mudslides,
fire
earthquakes.
Season. You do have 2 seasons. You have summer and fire season.
Isn't it fire season in summer?
Yeah, but it's such an event that it's still categorized as a season. Everything burns every year. How is there any land left that isn't scorched? It seems like
did you guys have a lot of those Japanese beetles? No,
yeah,
never
we
heard of
definitely
them.
had a lot of critters this year because it was a pretty hot summer.
Because a lot of times the bugs will eat all of that vegetation and then it dies off, and then you have all these extra trees and leaves and stuff that are falling on the ground. So it's a lot easier for those fires to spark too.
Right. Well, and we
Just
did have
some
a pretty
douchebag
rainy
flipping a cigarette
winter,
out there.
comparatively speaking. We actually had a fair amount of rain,
Yeah.
which was good because we needed it. But because of that, we did get some lush vegetation, and it actually looked really cool. The mountains were green, which hardly ever happens. I felt like I was driving in Ireland or something. But yeah, it's a peculiar place, and it certainly has its drawbacks. Sometimes when I'm in other cities and I see what their traffic's like, comparatively speaking, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is nothing.
Well, and every city that everybody lives in, they have their drawbacks. And so you just make the choice, is this worth it to me? To me, it's not really worth it to live here when I think of just the winter, but I think of the people, I think of so many other things that are worth it that I will gladly deal with that and just buy cute boots and cute clothes and be warm, have a beanie on, whatever,
You guys know how to deal with the winter. For me, the places that are really just tough to live in my opinion, and I've lived in a few different places, but are the places that they get winters but they don't know how to handle them. Because, I don't mind the cold. In some ways, I don't even mind the snow, as long as the snow isn't impeding on my ability to kind of get where I need to go. And, you guys know how to deal with stuff. You guys are not messing around. You guys know how to ice. School hardly ever gets canceled in Minnesota.
Yeah.
You guys aren't messing around. You're prepared for it. You know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Places that, are either more rural or they're just maybe slightly to the south, so they still get a harsh winter. but not harsh enough that they really invested the city money to truly deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, like I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We got winters. You know, sometimes we had mild ones, but for the most part, we would get pretty harsh winters. And, you know, like, yeah, we had salt trucks. We kind of knew how to deal with it. But we didn't know how to deal with it the way they knew how to deal with it in upstate New York or anything like that.
Yeah.
So when we would get hit, you were just screwed. Like you were just like the city just shuts down and, you know, tough shit. And to me that's just like so painfully depressing that, you know, you're going to let a season just dictate your ability to live.
Right.
So that's why, like, you know, I could deal with like the winters in Minneapolis. I mean, I wouldn't love it, no, but you know, because I don't love the cold or anything like that. But if I'm in a place that knows how to deal with it, and it's not really going to infringe on my life, other than just I put a coat on, or more than a coat,
Yeah.
I can deal with that.
Well, I think part of it too is places that generally maybe they see a shitty winter like every couple years, or it's not 1 year, it's like not that bad. So a lot of it's based on experience, but then also like the willingness to be prepared and actually say, hey, we're going to plan and make sure we have enough salt or whatever. So the two kind of go hand in hand. So it's kind of like if there hasn't been every year, it's been a crappy winter. Because here, even when the first time it snows, there's like 350 million accidents. And it's like, you guys, like, we do this every year.
People do forget.
They forget because
when it first hits.
Oh,
you're not paying as much attention.
There's a transition period.
Yep, absolutely.
Where
so every year, literally,
yeah, I got to get my snow legs.
And people don't give themselves enough time. You know, it's going to snow tomorrow. That's not. I mean, that's like you're like,
snow.
Oh fuck.
It's
gonna snow, and I have to go drive wherever. So people don't give themselves enough time. You know, double the time. If you normally takes you 15 minutes to get to work, leave 30 minutes.
You know, the one that makes the least amount of sense for me is living in like New York City, because they don't have. It's just a bunch of, you know, people packed in together like rats in this tiny little area, and
not all of New York City, but like Manhattan.
Pretty much New York City is basically like a bunch of rats in a box. But what's the main benefit? The convenience of everything just being right there. Because traffic sucks, where most people just abandon the whole idea of driving. They still get hit with the shitty winters, so they don't have like sunny and 70 every day of the week like in California.
Right. You have to deal with a lot of people everywhere, but you can also go from LaGuardia, take the subway or a bus to the let's say you land in LaGuardia, you take a bus to the subway. You take the subway to wherever you need to go if you're in that area. Like, you literally don't have to drive a car ever because they make it accessible.
Oh yeah.
Obviously there's people everywhere.
It's the convenience of everything being right there. That's the main thing.
I think that's the main thing. I think the people get a bad rap a lot of the times. I mean, there's probably people from New York that are assholes, but when I went there, everyone was super nice.
Hey.
They're just I honestly think this is my theory.
Breaking news.
This is my theory.
There's assholes in Minnesota too.
There is too. There's assholes everywhere. But me, like this Minnesota chick, like, I've never been to New York City. I didn't know. You know, I know that it's like a bustling place and it's busy.
You thought everyone was a dick?
No, I didn't think everyone was a dick. I didn't know, you know, and I wanted to make the judgment on my own. But this is the thing. Everyone is busy. They have places to go. They're in this epicenter of huge amount of population, whatever. They're just trying to go about their daily lives, and they have all these tourists like standing in the middle of the sidewalk, stopping, taking pictures, just like being whatever, and that's great. But they're just trying to get on with their day. Like, they're just trying to do what they need to do. So if that makes them seem whatever, then that's the opinion of others. That's what I thought, I guess, before I went there. But after I was there for like 3 hours, it took me to make the decision, and I was like, I love these fucking people. I had a good experience.
Yeah, I love New York. I've never had a bad time there.
Yeah, it's fun to visit. After, a couple of days, you're like, all right, I'm done with this place. I'm ready to leave.
Would you rather spend...
Like Vegas.
I was just going to say, would you rather spend 5 days in Vegas or 5 days in New York?
Probably Vegas.
What?
Maybe.
Ew.
Really?
I would pick New York.
I'd pick New York any day.
know.
Me too.
2 days in Vegas, I'm good.
Yeah.
But New York City,
yeah.
I don't think I could ever get bored in that
No,
city.
me neither.
There's so much.
It's,
it's one of the cities of the world, you know?
Did you go to all the right places when you were there, Sarge?
yeah.
Where did you go?
It was fun, but
You went to bars, because wasn't it when you were in the military?
yeah.
Yeah, you didn't go to any of the places then.
Like, I didn't go and, like, see the Statue of Liberty and shit.
Well, you don't have to do all the touristy things, but you were like
I was there for
a young man in the army, like getting ready to go overseas. Like
Yeah,
you
I
were
was 21.
in
I just
club
wanted to get
mode.
drunk.
Yeah, that's not. You can't count that.
We had some Thanksgiving dinner with.
Don't you agree, Ron? You
some
can't count that.
firemen. Well, Vegas, I agree. Vegas is the same way. Like, I don't want to be in either places for more than like a day or two, especially during the day in Vegas. Oof, it's a totally different place.
How I can't even tell
Yeah,
when it's day or night
Vegas.
there.
Vegas is just kind of an an entertainment destination. Some people love it, some people don't. I could take it or leave it. I've had fun in Vegas before, but I'm pretty just north of indifferent to it.
Yeah.
New York City is like, that's like one of the cities of the world. It's like comparing Epcot Center to London, it's just like two completely kind of different animals.
Yep.
But I don't know. I do love New York City. I have a very big affection. I have an affection for a lot of places. Like I think, the United States has got its flaws because it's such a big spread out place. But it's got so many really cool pockets worth exploring that at the very least keeps it interesting.
Well, there's just so many different kind of cultures and people and all of the things are just, and they're all in this little land of ours. Like, there's just so, you can go down.
America, America.
But it's true. There's lots of different things going on, but it's cool. I have a funny story about Vegas. So one of my sister's friends got married there, and
Hey! What happens in Vegas stays
no,
in Vegas.
it's just like the typical Vegas thing. So they get married, and
I'm about to hear a murder story.
they spend their honeymoon there too. I think for like 5 days, and both super sweet, great people, but both very overweight, I guess. So their whole honeymoon situation was planned on different buffets they were going to go to at different hotels and restaurants. So I thought that was interesting. That was the
Whatever does it for you.
That was like the plan. Yeah.
I've been to some good ones. I've been to some not so good ones too. But I've definitely been to some Vegas buffets where I'm like, yes, I could get used to this. And that's one of the areas where it really pays to know a local, because they will tell you where the good deals are, where you have to go, and when you should go there. And they won't waste your time because they know how to navigate that stuff. Because that's one of the perks of living there if you do it right.
Right.
Because, if you're a local, you don't really give a shit about the Strip. It lost its excitement for you years ago.
Exactly.
But when you can get your good eating deals, that's when you'll show up for stuff. So,
yeah, or even just meeting people
I always like to lean on some of my locals in Vegas and just be like, all right, where's the deal? Where are we going?
Or even locals anywhere you go that are like, hey, this place has super sweet tacos for super cheap, or go to this place and get a brisket sandwich or a short rib Reuben or whatever it is, Like, I feel like the locals that you get to know kind of have the inside scoop. And so you were born in Pittsburgh originally?
Yeah, I was born in Pittsburgh, lived there until I was about 18. Then I went away for college, and then I lived in Seattle for a while. Mm-hmm. And then I, started doing comedy pretty heavy, went to grad school back in Pittsburgh, hit the road kind of hardcore. Moved to Nashville and kept hitting the road. Eventually wound up here in LA, and I've lived here since April of 2016.
Okay.
What didn't you do? You opened for a good friend of ours, Dat Fan, recently too, didn't you? Didn't we see some kind of...
Yeah, I did.
In San Diego?
I think me and Dat did
La Jolla?
Pechanga. We did a casino together. We did a casino
Oh, that's right.
together. Yeah.
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that fan. That's a good dude. I remember it
was a fun weekend, if I recall. I didn't really get to hang out with them much because it was at a resort casino type thing, and they like kind of took care of everything. So my girlfriend came with me. We made a little kind of weekend getaway. So I didn't really. I would just kind of go and do my sets, and then sort of spend time with her. So, but it was a fun weekend.
So what made you get into comedy? What's your comedy origin story?
Yeah, and what did you go to college for first?
So
answer that.
I got my undergrad in just business. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I got a business degree.
Okay.
And then I went to grad school for communication, and I studied like media policy and stuff like that. And that's still a field that really interests me, and kind of a field that I'm in. I work for a political comedy show on YouTube. So I went to undergrad at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, and I thought I wanted to do radio. Like I really thought I want to be on the radio. And I read this article that I think was like from the 80s, but I didn't realize it. And the article said that like a good way to get on the radio is by being a stand-up. And there's a funny story. I'll actually share this. There's a comedian, you know who Ralphie May is, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The comedian. So years ago, when I was like in college, I think I was under 21. This was a while ago, but I was listening to I was in the car with my dad. We were going somewhere, and the radio was on. Now, in Pittsburgh, our hockey team is the Penguins.
Mm-hmm.
And which I'm sure you guys knew that. I don't know why I was telling you that. Like I was like sharing information you didn't know, but
like we're from another country. We play
right?
hockey.
Sorry about that.
Our team is the Penguins.
And I'm a Penguins fan. And at one point in time, they were considering selling the Penguins to Kansas City. And this was a long time ago.
Makes sense.
But there was a chance the Penguins were going to go to Kansas City.
City
the Penguins are owned by Mario Lemieux. He still owns them to this day. And he used to play for them. He got them 2 cups.
Yeah.
And in the city, even though people were diehard Penguins fans and were just livid at the idea of selling them to Kansas City, you still could not say a bad thing about Mario Lemieux. Like, that was, like, unspoken. You could not say a bad thing about Mario. That was just something you didn't do. It wasn't his fault, right?
Oh,
and I was listening to the radio with my dad, and Ralphie May was the guest. And he went on this 10-minute rant.
Oh, shit.
Making fun of Mario, and it was so funny. It wasn't like mean-spirited or anything, but it was so funny, where he's like, yeah, Mario had all those back problems over the years. What people didn't know was those were his problems from going back and forth to the bank. Just busting Mario's chops at the idea of selling the Penguins. And it was so, like even the DJ was trying not to laugh, but he couldn't. He was laughing. So here was this out-of-town comic that came into town and crossed a line that you're not allowed to cross in Pittsburgh. But he was so funny about it that he got away with it. He got away with it. Hilarious. Like, at one point, even my dad went to, like, switch the station. I was like, no, don't touch that. Leave this shit on. I want to hear this. And I remember just thinking, I don't know what that was, but I want to do that. I want to do that for a job. Whatever he just did, I want that to be me. But what I didn't know was I didn't know that being a comedian was a job you could have. I honestly thought that Ralphie May just had a radio show in a different place, and he was just performing in Pittsburgh. I thought Ralphie May was just a morning radio personality in, like, Miami or something, and he would play comedy clubs on the side, and he happened to be doing a weekend of shows in Pittsburgh. Like, that was honestly what I thought.
So
I didn't realize that, like, no, Ralphie May's a comedian. That's first
cute.
and foremost what he does.
Did you not really follow comedy at that time?
No, I mean, I knew what stand-up was, but I didn't know that, like,
the logistics.
Didn't know that people did that, and that could be their primary thing.
Right.
And to a degree, I was right, because, a lot of people, stand-up is, a launching pad for something else, like an acting career. Or, like some people, they do a bunch of other things so that they can have notoriety as a stand-up. Like Patton Oswalt wrote Ratatouille and did all these other things. I mean, he loved them, but he mostly did them so that more people would buy tickets at the end of the day. Same with like a Louis C.K.
That helps.
Yeah. I mean, it's all connected. But but I didn't realize that like I didn't know there was such a thing as a road comic. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that there were professional comedians that I had never heard of that weren't famous at all. That might not even have a freaking website. I didn't know that. So I had no clue that Ralphie May was like a comedian. I didn't know. I just thought he was a radio personality somewhere else. So I was like, well, I got to be on the radio. I got to do that. Because I want to do what that guy just did. Whatever that guy did. And I'm pretty sure I was under 21 because when they said his name, I wanted to go see him, but I couldn't. And I'm pretty sure the reason I couldn't was because I was just under 21, so I couldn't afford to buy passes. And, it's funny. Ralphie May, I'm not super familiar with his comedy, anymore, but he does live in Nashville. So when I still lived in Nashville, I'd see him around. Sometimes would be in the green room with them or whatever. And I always wanted to tell him that story, but I never had an opportunity to because he was always surrounded by other comics. And it's not like I could just tell him that story in front of a bunch of other people because they'd be like, wow, Ron, your nose is a little brown, buddy. Take it easy. But I was hoping at some point I could tell him that story because I'm sure he'd get a kick out of it. Or at least I hope it would flatter him at least. But yeah, that sort of like, I thought I wanted to be on the radio and I kind of wanted to be a comedian and didn't realize that was what I wanted to be. But, I tried stand up and failed miserably. I was absolutely terrible. And then tried again and failed miserably for months, but got bit by some kind of bug. And, here we are.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's I think that's good when you fail miserably at the beginning because that's kind of the way it's supposed to be. It's every once in a while we'll hear from a comedian that will be on the show and they'll tell us about their first time going on stage and how they just nailed it. They just crushed it. And it's a little hard to believe. The very first time you get up there, you just kill it.
That's actually common. The most common story I hear is that your first time, for whatever, you just knock it out of the park, and you're like, "Holy shit!" And then you bomb for 6 months, and you're trying so hard to recapture that lightning in the bottle that you got with your beginner's luck the first time. That's the common story I hear.
Really?
But for me, it did not go that way. For me, I failed miserably the first time. And then I think like early on, I had a time where I just did connect, and I had a really good set, and I was like, oh shit, I figured this out. And then I would proceed to bomb relentlessly for another, long period of time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting art form.
Yeah.
It's a fragile art form. It's an evolving art form, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like we on our show, we started out having comics. We're kind of the first. Like, I don't know. I want to make sure I do the right. Like, would you rather be preferred to be called a comic or a comedian? What do you prefer?
I think it's the same thing.
No, they're not the same.
I don't care.
Okay, you don't care. Some people care. Like some people do care. Yeah.
I'm sure some people do.
Some people do.
I never really got into that. I mean, I don't know if it's like I just don't like one time somebody, I'll never forget this. It was the funniest thing. Like there was this comedian and she's really good. She's one of like the top comics in town now. And at the time, she was newer, and she was dating a fellow comedian that was, more established in the scene. And she was emceeing a show, and she introduced me as a local comic, and I didn't even notice. And afterwards, she came up to me and she apologized. She's like, "I'm so sorry that I brought you up as a local comic." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "Well, and her boyfriend, I guess, took her aside and said, 'Look, you don't say that about someone like him. He tours around the country. He's done stuff in other places. You don't say he's a local comic.' Even though I lived there, I was a local comic, but like,
yeah.
So do you think
and I just said to her, I was like, "Look, he was probably giving you advice because there might be somebody else that would care about something like that. But
or that has in the past.
I don't care. Like I was like, you did not offend me whatsoever.
Right.
And you have no reason to apologize to me. If he was giving you that advice because, somebody in the future might not appreciate that, or a club owner might, I don't know. But, something like that would never, something like that would just never bother me.
Okay, good.
Like, I really don't care.
I wonder if the negative connotation in his mind was on the comic part or the local part. I wonder
it was definitely the local part. It was definitely, because that's what she apologized for. Like, she's like, I shouldn't call you. You've done stuff in other places, so you're not. And to me, that's just like, come on, who cares? Like, that's just goofy. Prove what you want to prove on stage.
Exactly.
These comics that get into their intros and stuff like that, like who gives a shit? If you ask me my intro, I'll try to give you one. I'll try to make it good. I don't even have, I'll just say, usually I just say like Sirius XM, or, like these days, like, I'll have people say the Jimmy DORE show, because like that's the show I work for, and, we're building a following, but, I just don't, I don't really put much stock in that. I don't know if there's a difference between comic and comedian. If there is, you're asking the wrong guy.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, my whole point of the question, maybe not even my question, but my statement was that the reason why we like having comedians / comics, not local comics, but sometimes local comics on the show is because everyone has super interesting stories to tell, and just kind of how they're at the point where they're at, and just being kind of passionate about what they're doing and what they want to do, and they just love comedy. And so it's just such, I don't know, it's such fun just chatting with everybody about it. I like it.
Comedians are
it's an interesting
guests.
thing. Absolutely.
And like I said, it's like, it's one day it's this, one day it's that, and it's being able, you guys have to go with the flow. You ladies and guys have to go with the flow and just kind of do what you do.
There's females in comedy?
Yeah. This just in.
There's a lot, and there's a lot of really, really good ones.
Yeah. I know. I'm just busting your chops, Frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
I know. There's some great comedians out there. There can be some stigmas with female comedians, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Where, it can be a lot more difficult for a female comedian to see success than the males, and there's less of them.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's definitely a more difficult journey, it appears. You know what I mean? It's sometimes guys don't.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. I try to be careful because I can't, obviously I can't speak from experience. But I have some female comics that are close friends of mine, and hearing some of the stuff they've gone through and witnessing it firsthand. There's certain things that as a male I really do not have to worry about that they do. So it's definitely, there's definitely some BS that you have to deal with, and it's it's a shame.
Yeah, it is. Well, I just think it's nice too when comedians, male or female, can support each other and like help each other out. And That's the one thing I think is so different about comedy versus other, I guess, professions where you're a member of a team. A lot of comedians step on each other to get to the top. A lot of them work together too. But it's kind of, I just feel like it's, you guys have discovered this thing that you love and that you're passionate about. Let's just all be like a big family, I guess, I don't get why that doesn't happen more often. I mean, I get it, but it just...
There's just so much competition. There's so many comedians out there.
Oh, yeah, there is. And everyone's getting a new Netflix special like every other day, it seems like, too.
But even just like the, the comedians that are, there's probably a new comedian that starts in comedy like every damn day, it seems like.
Oh, yeah, probably multiples a day.
The average is there like a...
There's probably more than one a day.
Is there stats on that somewhere?
I don't think so. Maybe you should develop it.
I mean... There are, but I mean, at the same note, I mean, I don't really see, like, if you really view all comedians as competition, and I know comics that have that attitude, and I think it's a terrible attitude to have, because, I mean, first of all, it's kind of self-destructive, but second of all, like, you're pretty much saying, there's nothing about me that's unique.
Right, that's what I was saying, like,
me that
support each
separates
other.
me from anybody else.
Yeah.
So, you know, you know, I'm trying to be the best comedian I can be, absolutely. But most importantly, I'm just trying to be the best at doing what it is I do, you know, like, because then there's no substitute for me.
Right.
Like, there's no substitute for me. That's why, you know, like the niches that I like, you know, I gravitate towards. I'm a news junkie. I'm into politics. I'm into music. So I work for a political comedy show on YouTube. You know, I have a podcast that combines music and politics with a comedic edge. You know, I go around doing stand-up, and I do colleges, and I talk about politics at colleges. You know, I've tried to just, you know, hone in on, you know, what it is that I'm interested in to try to just find, you know, try to find other people that care. There was a really good website called Connected Comedy, and there was a guy who I actually got to befriend recently, which was really cool, that kind of wrote about all this, where it's like, just, you know, pretend as if you only have one fan or 5 fans, and, you know, like, how would you curate content for these people because they have the same interest as you? You know, so, you know, if you have a funny idea for a podcast about basketball and comedy because you love basketball, well, your audience might not necessarily be comedy fans per se. Your audience is basketball fans, and you know, stuff like that. So you know, I think having this idea that it's like, oh, everybody, it's a big competition with everybody. Like, you know, I try not to ever think that way. You know, I mean, we're all only human. I'm not going to sit here and say I never, you know, saw somebody else's success and was like, why are they so successful and I'm not? Or if they're more successful or whatever. You know, we're all human. We've all done that.
Right.
But you know, I try, you know, for the most part, it's like the only person you're really competing with is yourself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know?
Well,
and if you're not on the right path, the only person that can change that is you. So,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's easy to, you know, you see somebody you know have success, you know, like in comedy or whatever it is, and it's easy to, you know, maybe have some admiration or jealousy there, like, oh man, you know, I wish I had gotten that break, or I wish I had gotten that opportunity. But, you know, instead of, you know, there's people that will sit and bitch about it and complain, like, why didn't I get that?
Or
when
yeah,
am
or
I going
how
to get
about,
my
like,
big break? But then you can use that in a positive way and use that as motivation to
or like, what did they do
better and improve your game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that's, I think, one of the greatest things that a comedian especially can develop is kind of their own niche in what they do, and find their own path where that they get a following of fans that are looking for them specifically. Like, there's something that you're bringing to the table that only you can bring.
Right.
And
so then you develop what that is, or you figure out what that is. So then there's no need for the jealousy or the hate or the being whatever. You can be competitive. You can be like funny competitive, like, hey, motherfucker, like, I'm going to get this spot before you do, kind of like in the fun competitive way. But
Trash
otherwise,
talking?
like, yeah, like you said, like, you figure out what you are and you're confident in what you are and you're going to do what you need to do to figure it out. And what everybody else does, good for them.
Sing it. Sing it.
Yeah, I'm
Francie.
with you.
Preach it.
Meh. Have you seen the movie It? Are you a fan of?
I've not.
Oof.
I have not. I've never seen the original or the remake.
Okay, you
Yeah,
need to see the
I'm not
original
cool.
first.
Oh, wow.
Do you hate clowns? Or you just aren't interested
No.
in that kind of?
No,
Have a
I'm,
healthy
no,
fear
I
of
just
clowns.
never got around to seeing the original, and I haven't seen the remake. I mean, my girlfriend mentioned she wants to see it, so we'll probably go check it out at some point. But
You should
but
rent
yeah, I just
the
haven't
first
gotten around
one.
to it.
You should rent the first one.
You don't even need to watch the first one.
Yes, you should. I think
that
you
one.
should.
This one is badass. And I don't even remember the first one.
There's too many loopholes in the second one as far as like describing what goes on.
Wasn't it pretty much the same thing?
No, because and I don't want to give anything. I mean, it was the same thing, but there's more of a backstory in the original because the original was actually a miniseries. It wasn't a movie.
But there's going to be a
Or
sequel.
it was like a two-part movie or whatever.
There's going to be a sequel, though.
So yeah, but the first one they give you more of a backstory of what happened. Where this one, you're like, okay, if you hadn't seen the first, you'd be like, I don't know.
I'm guessing
what's
they're going
happening.
to do that in the sequel. You'll get more of the backstory. 'Cause they're
Yeah,
supposed to be
maybe.
adults,
Maybe.
but can't give spoilers.
Yeah, I don't want to give anything away, but I would recommend seeing the first one. But if you just go see the second one, it'll be good too.
What is all that banging in the background?
They're making some pizza.
That's a noisy pizza.
A Luigi, a Mario.
So you've got the podcast. What was the podcast called again? 5 Chords.
I have a podcast called 5 Chords and the Truth. The number 5 Chords and the Truth.
What are
And
people
you can
like?
get that on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. And then you can catch me on the Jimmy Dore Show pretty much every day over on the YouTube, or you can grab that podcast as well. Is this are we at the plugging stuff coming up?
Yes,
Is
you can
that
plug-
where we're at?
Wow.
Okay,
Plug
cool.
all the things.
I'll be in Colorado. I'm not sure when this comes out, but I'll be in Colorado this weekend. September 28th, I'm doing a show at Comedy Highlands in Denver.
Denver.
September 29th, I'm doing the Speakeasy in Longmont, Colorado. And then September 30th, I'm doing another set in Denver at the 3MC's comedy show at the Blackbird Pub. So all those details are on my website, ronplacone.com. Following week, I'm going to be at Podfest LA. I'm going to be doing the live Jimmy Dore show, the live show for a podcast called The Political Vigilante, run by Graham Elwood. And then I'll also be on a panel on one of the days. If there's any LA folks that listen that plan on attending Podfest, come out and say hey. And then I'm going to be in Portland with the Jimmy Dore Show on November 12th at the Alberta Rose Theater. I'm going to be in Pittsburgh because I'm going to be home for Thanksgiving. So I'm doing
Nice.
Unplanned Comedy. That's a new venue in Pittsburgh. I'll be doing that on Black Friday. I think it's the 24th, but it's November 24th at 9:30. And then I got a bunch of local LA dates too. RonPlacone.com for all my dates. At Ron Placone on Twitter. That podcast again is 5 Chords and the Truth. And then Twitter's the best way. Like follow me on there, and I will be tweeting out everything I'm up to.
Sweet.
Beautiful.
Love it.
I see Francie's got your website pulled up here. Beautiful website, by the way.
Thank you.
It says that you're on the Young Turks Network as well.
Yeah, the Jimmy Dore show's under the Young Turks umbrella, and then I was
Nice.
I was a TYT network partner as an individual too.
Okay.
Since about 2013. That's how I met up with Jimmy.
Nice.
Nice. Out there speaking the truth. Some real news. Is that so we can expect like real news from you?
Are you going to give any swag away at LA Podfest? Like can koozies
If
or
I have
stickers?
any to give, I will. But I don't know if I'll have any to give.
You should get some merch and sell it there. That'd be good.
Oh, I'll have some of my stuff. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know if I'll have any official Podfest gear. But yeah, I always have a few CDs on me or whatever else.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
No.
What is the Podfest? I've never heard of that before.
They do a podcast festival in LA every October. And I think this year,
do people dress
Bill
up
Burr's
as their
gonna be
favorite
there.
podcaster?
What's up?
I was gonna say, do people do like cosplay stuff where they dress up as their favorite podcaster, like at Comic Cons?
I hope so. I don't know, but I
That'd
can
be
only hope
awesome.
so. But yeah, LA Podfest for more details on that. But yeah, it's a pretty cool lineup this year. And I know Bill Burr's doing a special event, and
Nice.
a bunch of other folks. The Dollop's going to be there. So yeah, it's always a fun time.
Cool. That's awesome.
Badass.
So make sure to check Ron out in all the places he mentioned if you're going to be nearby.
Yeah, you are definitely a funny fucking dude. You're a good comic. I don't say that lightly. When we saw you just do a set at the open mic, we were like, wow, this guy is fucking legit, and love to talk to this guy at some point. Friends who want to talk to you. You're a funny dude. You're definitely
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for being on, brother.
All right. I hope you get your last month of warm weather. I'll send good.
Thank
I'll
you.
send good weather vibes and good traffic vibes your way.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
If you could send us some like gentle winter vibes, that'd be awesome.
I certainly will.
Okay.
I certainly will. Absolutely.
Perfect. All right.
All
All
right.
right, Ron. Thank you
Thanks,
again.
guys.
Have a great night.
All right. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Frenzy!
Hello.
Let's do this outro.
Let's do it.
Wrapping it up. That was comedian Ron Placone.
Yes.
We got onto a lot of like weather talk and where it's cool to live.
Just random tangents.
We broke it down a little bit.
It was good. Fun time with
Ron
him.
Placone, he is legitimately, that dude is funny as fuck. We got to see him perform live in Minneapolis.
Last spring, last March.
We got to see him at Sisyphus, and the dude is very, very funny. So definitely check him out. Check out his comedy, his podcast, and that YouTube show that he's on. I'd like to thank our sponsors for this episode, Northland Vapor Company.
Northlandvapor.com.
Damn right. Yeah, use the code SARGE20 to get yourself 20% off all their e-vape liquid and their swag. They got some sweet swag. They got some badass stuff. Also, our sponsor, Alpine Hemp.
You can find them at alpinehemp.com. And that same snazzy SARGE20 code works for them too.
Damn right. Get yourself some hemp. Some hemp.
Help?
Some hemp. Some Alpine Hemp. They got the tinctures. They got the capsules. Get your mind right.
Get it.
Also, thank you to our sponsor, Comics Watching Comics, the TV show that you can now find
On Amazon Video.
Yes.
And they're doing their live show November 18th at Gotham Comedy Club. Tickets are on sale now.
Yeah.
Go check it
to
out.
That. I wish that we could make it to that.
I wish we could too.
It's out in New York. But, yeah, that's going to be a badass time.
Yep. And
live show.
that show is going to be also on Amazon Video once it's fully uploaded and done. So.
Oh, beautiful.
And then lastly, we have the Sportsbook Box Office Podcast hosted by Kevin Goatee and Jeffrey Paul.
Damn right. Find their podcast on like iTunes, Podomatic, Spreaker. Check it out. Talking about movies and sports. Thank you, sponsors.
Thank you.
Some badass people. All right. Coming up on the Sarge Approved Podcast, we have, for the month of October, we have comedian and podcast host Jeffrey Paul from the Sportsbook Box Office Podcast.
Yep.
It's a long time coming, waiting to have that dude on the show, so we're looking forward to it. And then after that, we have Stephen Kavolkovich.
Stephen Kavolkovich.
Yes, that should be a fun episode. He's a paramedic, former 9/11 rescue worker. He's got a podcast of his own. He works with people with like PTSD and things like that.
Motivational speaker, yeah.
Yeah, so he's a good dude doing good things. So that should be a good episode. And we'll let you know what the rest of the shows are going to be coming up. All right. Are we done?
We're done.
Fucking done. Let's end this thing. Let's play a song. I'm going to play a song by The Impossibles called Pope.
Pope.
Beautiful. All right.
Love it.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. See you later. Bye.
Later, fuckers.
You don't understand. I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. Kick ass!
Oh, your car got mags that be dippy dope, but the whole damn nation got the same. Honey only flock to the bee, that's the Pope, not the president with government lame. Put me on a slow-moving parliamentary hacking bandwagon. You can put me little ass in the grave every time you want it. I'll be live, bring a date, I mean computer when it's over, press save. So you can be the president. I'd rather be the Pope. Yeah, you can be the side effect. I'd rather be the dope.
Call your girl named Sally and you figure you would chill. Then you find out I'm the reason that Sally's on the pill. What am I supposed to do when the president can't get nothing passed? Find an alley under Sally right in front of your ass. I said you can be the president. I'd rather be the Pope. Yeah, you can be the side effect. I'd rather be the dope.
Who's the funky drummer with the crooked little sticks? He might have better luck if he was drumming with his stick. If you don't wanna play the piccolo, then why you lick? Now check the drum solo and tell me not to kick it.
Oh, your car got mags, zippy dippy dope, but the whole damn nation got the same. Honey only flock to the bee, that's the Pope, not the president with government lame. Put me on a slow-moving parliamentary hacking bandwagon. You can put me little ass in the grave every time you want it. I'll be live, bring a date, I mean computer when it's over, press save. So, you can be the president. Yo, I'd rather be the Pope. Yeah, you could be the side effect. I'd rather be the dope.